If sleep does not serve an absolutely vital function, then it is the biggest mistake the evolutionary process ever made. I love that quote because sleep is not a mistake. Sleep is a biological necessity. Sleep is a pillar of health. And with all that in mind, you would think that we'd have this deep appreciation for it. Some of us do. But I'm a university professor, and when I look at college campuses today, it's not at all clear to me that most of us value our sleep. Let me show you what I mean. Here's student one, their sleep is in blue. They're going to bed before midnight, waking up at the same time every morning, averaging over 8 hours a night. Beautiful. How many college students do you know who look like this? Our data say about 6 to 8%. Maybe student two will be more familiar to you. This student is going to bed late. Later. What's happening here? All-nighters are a cultural norm on college campuses. But it hasn't always been this way. In 1925, before there was digital media and when there were fewer social pressures to stay up late, the students at Vassar College averaged nearly 8 hours a night, Monday through Sunday. At Mount Holyoke College, also 100 years ago, the students averaged 8 hours and 20 minutes a night. Today, you're lucky to find a college student who sleeps 7 hours all week long. But it matters. When we cut back on sleep, we impact the brain's ability to sustain attention and engage in thoughtful reasoning. When we cut back on sleep, we undermine the brain's ability to regulate mood and to be resilient to stressors. And when we cut back on sleep, we impair the brain's ability to learn and remember. I wanted to do something to combat this trend. So I designed a new course to teach college students all about the science of sleep and how to adopt healthy sleep habits. And it was great. The students came to class and they were engaged. They read and discussed journal articles about sleep deprivation, and they learned many science-backed techniques for improving their own sleep. I thought that by educating these students about sleep, that I was changing their lives. I thought that by educating them about sleep, that they were all adopting healthy sleep habits. I was wrong. As the semester rolled on, I saw increased yawning, heavier eyelids, and bodies slumping deeper into chairs. I overheard students talking about going to bed at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. Some students were openly planning their next all-nighter. I asked them why, and they told me they knew that sleep was important, but they just didn't feel like they had time for it right now. So my approach wasn't working, and I could see that finals week was looming. I had to do something. I decided to stop telling these students why sleep mattered and start showing them what actually happens when they make time for it. So, on the last day of the semester, I walked into class carrying this box of clinical grade sleep trackers. I was intent on changing sleep behaviors, and I was going to use the strongest incentive I could muster. I went into class and I set that box down and I said, I have a challenge for you. If you can prove that you are sleeping 8 hours a night throughout finals week, then I will reward you with 8 extra credit points on your final exam. But if you average less than 6, you lose 6 points. Would you take this challenge? Would you students? I didn't know how this was going to go. I went back up to my office right after that, and I thought, what are you doing? You're not even tenured yet. Okay, so let's not actually take away any points. But I didn't know if anyone would take this challenge or if anyone could succeed. All of our data to this point indicated that almost no students slept 8 hours during finals week. That class, half of my students took this challenge. And when I looked at the data, I was stunned. Every single student to take this challenge was successful. And in fact, in being challenged to average 8 hours a night, these students averaged 9. What does that tell you about the need for sleep during finals week? Since this first class, I've repeated this challenge in all of my upper-level classes, but with a few tweaks. First off, we got rid of that points penalty. That was terrifying. We also reworked the rules so that now you could earn the extra credit simply by making time for sleep. You see, you can't force your brain to go to sleep, and trying too hard is going to be counterproductive. But what you can do is prioritize making sufficient time at night with the lights out, no electronics, and trying to sleep. And now with this approach, about 90% of my students take these challenges. And across hundreds of students, we've seen meaningful improvements. Now the majority of my students average at least 7 hours a night, which is the minimum recommended for adults. And the benefits show up across the board, regardless of demographic background, regardless of workload, and regardless of baseline sleep amount, which feels like a success. But some of you may be thinking, that sounds like a nice party trick. You've shown that students can sleep more if you give them extra credit to do it, but come on. What happens when those points disappear? Fair question. You know what we find, though, when we follow up with these students months later? More than half of the original benefit to sleep is still there. Why? Why would they still be prioritizing their sleep if they're no longer earning extra credit to do so? Well, after sleeping 8 hours, our students tell us that they love to feel more energized. They love to be cheerier. They love being more productive. And they love no longer looking like walking zombies. Once you experience what good sleep feels like, you don't really want to go back. And here's the kicker. We always hear that you have to sacrifice your sleep if you're going to be able to prepare effectively for upcoming exams. That would make you think that taking one of these challenges is going to hurt your grades, at least in the classes where they're not getting extra credit for it. But our data say the opposite. Students who adopt consistently earlier bedtimes and sleep longer not only feel better, they also perform better. Their semester GPA goes from about a B to a B+, even after accounting for that extra credit. I could give you many scientific explanations for why this is the case, but I think that my student put it best when she said that after sleeping 8 hours, it was the first time my brain worked while taking a final exam. This student is the textbook example of what I'm trying to accomplish. This student was intelligent, but struggling, earning D's going into the final. And then she took the 8-hour sleep challenge. And her subsequent final exam performance was so strong that it lifted up her semester average to the passing range. About a year later, she took another one of my classes, and this time, she did great throughout. And yes, she said that she was still prioritizing her sleep. That's the real story here. It's not about the extra credit. It's about showing people that when they make time for sleep, life gets better and they get better at life. So let me ask you, what extra credit would you need to make sleep a priority? You'd be more energized, you'd be cheerier, you'd even be more productive. Let's make some changes to our lives so that we can flourish in these ways. Let's make time for sleep. Thank you.